Welcome to EduRev.
Hi all, my name is Sarika Tulsiani, and today in this video we are going to have a look at the concept of variation and also solve a few Quant questions regarding the same. So let's start with variation. First of all, what do you mean by variation? See, basically variation means change. So if I change one entity, what is its impact on the other entity causes variation, results in the variation. So let's say if I have an entity A, if I increase that entity, I have another entity B which is dependent on A. So B might increase if A increases, or B might decrease if A increases. So what is the effect on B is variation. So there are two basic types of variation depending upon the impact it has. The first variation is called as the direct variation and the other variation is called as the inverse variation. Suppose if I have an entity A, if I increase that, let's say B will also increase. If I decrease A, B will also decrease. So this is called as direct relation or direct variation. So here we write it as A varies directly with B. ठीक है, A varies directly with B. If one increases, the other also increases. One decreases, other also decreases. For example, time and work. Let's say if my work increases, the time required to do the work will also increase. But if my work decreases, the time required to do the work will also decrease. ठीक है, that's a very simple example of direct variation. ठीक है. Now, whenever I remove this variation sign, I have to add a constant. Okay, I have to add a constant. Here K is your constant. So what will I do? I will take B on the other side. So this is equal to K and K is nothing but a constant. That means in direct variation, your ratio is always a constant. It is always a constant. I'll give you a simple example. देखो, area of a square is pi r square. ठीक है, area of a square is pi r square. So that means area is directly proportional to the radius square. It is directly proportional to the radius square. When you remove this variation sign, you have to add a constant. And the constant in this case is a pi. So what will I do? I will take r square in the denominator, which is nothing but pi, which is equal to constant. Okay, which is equal to a constant. Now suppose if I give you two values. In this case, I give you two values. Let's say a1 upon b1. And I give you one more value, a2 upon b2. But we know any ratio, any a upon b ratio will always be a constant. Correct? So that means a1 by b1 is equal to a2 by b2 because it is equal to a constant value. So what we can do is we can use alternando and we will get a1 upon a2 is equal to b1 upon b2. Okay, I have just swapped a2 and b1. I have just interchanged these two. So a1 upon a2 is equal to b1 upon b2. Now what will happen in the question? They will ideally give you three values and they will ask you what is the fourth value. Suppose if I give you a1, I give you a2, I give you b1 and I'll ask you what is the value of b2. Of course, the sum will not be as simple as this, but the basic concept is going to be this only. Likewise, similarly, if we talk about inverse variation. So let's say A varies inversely with B. So that means if one entity increases, the other entity has to decrease and vice versa. For example, speed and time. If my speed is fast, I will take less time. And if my speed is less, I will take more time. So they are inversely related. ठीक है? Again, when we remove the variation sign, we have to add a constant K. ठीक है? Now what will I do? I will take B on the other side. So this becomes AB is equal to K, which is nothing but a constant. So in inverse variation, your product is a constant. Here, your ratio was a constant. ठीक है, that's the difference. Now suppose if I give you certain values, let's say a1 b1 and I give you one more set of values a2 b2. We know this a1 b1 का value will be equal to a2 b2 का value because the product is always a constant. ठीक है? So if I just rearrange this expression, I can write this as a1 upon a2 is equal to b2 upon b1. I've just taken b1 on the other side and a2 on the other side. तो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है देखो, here you had a direct relation a1 by a2 is equal to b1 by b2. Here you have a1 by a2 is equal to b2 by b1. Again certain values will be given. One of the values will be unknown and you have to find the unknown value. So this is what is inverse variation. Now generally questions are asked on joint variation. Now this is a third type of variation, but it is just a combination of direct and inverse variation. Basically when we combine direct and inverse, it forms a joint variation. Say for example, I tell you A is directly varies with B. A directly varies with B. And let's say A inversely varies with C. Okay? A inversely varies with C. Now what do? We know this relation, we know this relation. We combine both of them. So we write it as A varies with respect to B upon C that way. So A is directly proportional or directly varies with B and inversely varies with C. So we combine the two. And this is called as joint variation. Okay? This is called as joint variation. So if you want to remove the variation sign, you add a constant. So that is KB upon C. Now again, like the previous cases, if I give you certain values, let's say A1 is equal to K B1 upon C1. Similarly, A2 is equal to K B2 upon C2. What do? We divide the two. So your KK will get cancelled, C2 will go above and B2 will get multiplied with C1. So if I ask you what is A1 upon A2, that will be equal to B1 upon B2 into C2 upon C1 because C2 is going up. Okay? So A1 upon A2 is B1 upon B2. This is direct, and C2 upon C1 because it is inverse. So this is an example of joint variation. And most of the times in CAT, the questions are asked on joint variation. They don't ask you individual questions on direct and inverse. Mainly they are joint variation questions. Okay? Now let's look at a few questions. Let's see the first question. What does it say? It says quantity P and Q are inversely proportional to each other. So P inversely varies with Q. When P is 8, Q is 240. Find Q when P is 6. Okay? So basically if I ask you what is P1 upon P2, because it is inverse variation, it will be equal to Q2 upon Q1. A lot of students make mistake here. So make sure you don't make a mistake in this case. Now when P is 8, when P1 is 8, Q is 240, so that is Q1. Q1 is 240. Find Q, so find this when P is 6. So when P2 is 6, what is Q2? That is your question. You can cross multiply and get your answer, but that is not even required. देखो 6 के टेबल में 24 कब आता है? 6 4 times is 24. So similarly here you will have 8 का 4 times. 8 का 4 times is 32. They've put a 0 here. You will put a 0 here. So this value becomes 320. So basically your value of Q2 is 320. Okay? So this is how you can solve the problem. It's a very simple problem. Now let's move on to the next one. So what does this say? A varies directly with B when C is a constant and inversely with C when B is a constant. So they are saying A varies directly with B when C is a constant and A varies inversely with C when B is a constant. Given A is 16 when B is 28, C is 7. Find A when B is 9, C is 6. Okay? So what do? This is an example of joint variation. So we will just combine the two. So I can write this as A varies with respect to B by C. So A is equal to KB by C. So here you have a new constant K. But I am saying this K is not even required because as we saw in the concept, ultimately, see, Here we saw your kk gets cancelled when you take the ratio. So in this case also your k will get cancelled. So basically you have a1 upon a2 is equal to b1 upon b2 into c2 upon c1. Okay? So when a1 is 16, your b1 is 28 and your c1 is 7. Now find A when B is 9. So B2 is 9 and C2 is 6. So C2 will come here. So this is how we are supposed to solve. So what I can do is 7 ones are 7 fours are. Okay? 4 ones are 4 fours are. Again 3 twos are 3 threes are. So what will happen? I will have A is equal to 4 into 3 will become 12 upon this 2 will go in the denominator. So 12 upon 2 will give you 6. So your value of A2 is nothing but 6. So this is your answer. So this is how you can solve it. Now let's look at the next question. What does it say? The force of attraction between two bodies is proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. If each mass is doubled and the distance between them is reduced by 1/3, then the force of attraction is how many times the original force of attraction? See, it seems to be like a very, very difficult question, but believe me, it's a very, very simple question. What are they saying? You have a force of attraction, let's say F, is directly proportional. When they don't mention what kind of proportion, by default, it is always assumed that it is direct proportion. It is proportional to the product of their masses. You have two bodies, so product of their masses will be M1, M2, and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So it is inversely proportional to the distance square. Now when I remove this variation sign, I will have to add a constant k m1 m2 upon d square. This is your original force of attraction. Let's call it as FO. Okay? Original force of attraction. If each mass is doubled, okay, now we are talking about new force of attraction. K will be as it is because it's a constant. Each mass is doubled. So M1 क्या हो जाएगा? M1 will be 2M1 into this will be 2M2 upon the distance between them is reduced by 1/3. This is a very important statement. See, originally the distance was D. It is reduced by 1/3. So I am subtracting 1/3 of D from my original distance. So the remaining distance will be 2/3 of D. This is the remaining distance. So this will become 2/3 of D the whole square because it is inversely proportional to distance square. So what will this become? 2 into 2 will become 4k m1 m2 upon 2 by 3 d ka square will be 4 by 9 d square. Your 4 will get cancelled. 9 will go above. So this will become 9k m1 m2 upon d square. This is your new force of attraction. Now the question is, the force of attraction is how many times the original force of attraction? See, original force was this k m1 m2 upon d square. New force of attraction is 9k m1 m2 upon d square. So can I say my new force of attraction is 9 times the original force of attraction? Because this is nothing but your original force of attraction. So my new force is 9 times the original force, and this becomes your answer. Okay? So if you see the solution, you'll realize that the solution is very, very easy. Just the case is you have to understand the question, put it properly in variation, and you get your solution. Okay? Now let's move on to the next question. What does it say? The value of a diamond is proportional to the square of its weight. If the diamond worth rupees 10,000 is divided into two pieces in the ratio 4:6, what is the loss in the value? They are asking you what is the loss. Now imagine I had a diamond. ठीक है. The value of the diamond is proportional to weight square. ठीक है. Initially the value of the diamond was 10,000. So initially the value was 10,000. ठीक है. Now this got divided into two pieces. Let's say it fell down, it broke, and it got divided into two pieces in the ratio 4:6. Now they are asking you what is the loss in the value. ठीक है. Now what is this ratio 4:6? This is the ratio of your weight. Okay, the weight is divided in the ratio 4:6. So your weight 1 is to weight 2 is nothing but 4:6. But we know one very important thing. You don't even need to use the constant here. You don't even need to use the k value here. You can do that without k also. How? देखो, understand. If I ask you before breaking, ठीक है, what was the value? ठीक है, before breaking what was the value? See, after breaking the ratio was 4:6. So before breaking, can I say the weight was 10? Before breaking the weight was 10, correct? We know value is proportional to weight square. So if I ask you what was the value? Value was 10 square, which is 100. ठीक है, वी आर टेकिंग विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द रेशियो. हम लोग रेशियो के हिसाब से ले रहे हैं. वी आर नॉट टेकिंग दिस ओरिजिनल रुपीज फॉर नाउ. ठीक है. इफ आफ्टर ब्रेकिंग द वेट वॉज 4:6, इनिशियली द वेट वॉज 10. सो द वैल्यू वॉज 10 स्क्वायर विच इज 100. करेक्ट. आफ्टर ब्रेकिंग द रेशियो इज 4:6. ठीक है. सो इफ आई आस्क यू व्हाट विल बी द रेशियो ऑफ वैल्यू, तो वैल्यू इज proportional to weight square. So for the first stone, the value will be 16, 4 square. And for the second stone, the value will be 6 square, which is 36. So the total value will become 52. ठीक है. This is the total value after breaking. This was the value before breaking. ठीक है. If I ask you what is the loss, what is the loss? It will be 100 minus 52, which is 48. ठीक है. My loss is 48 as per the ratio 4:6. Now understand, I want the exact loss value. How will I get that? देखो, initially my value was 100, but the actual value was 10,000 rupees. So 100 का मतलब है 10,000. The loss in my case is 48. ठीक है, the loss in my case is 48. If 100 means 10k or 10,000, you can write it as 10,000. What does 48 mean? Can I say 48 will mean 4,800? ठीक है. So the loss in this case is 4,800 rupees, and that is your answer. So you don't even need to use any k value. We are not even using multiplying factor. We can solve the entire problem without that as well. ठीक है. So in this video, we have seen the concept of variation. We have also solved quite a few questions regarding the same. After watching this video, I would recommend you to go back and try certain questions which are prepared by our expert EduRev educators. These questions are prepared just on the level of CAT. So you will understand while practicing those questions whether you have really understood the concept or not. So you'll get a complete clarity regarding the same. So make sure you go back and try those questions. Also, if you have certain queries, you can write into us at support@edurev.in. And also for anything else, you can visit the website www.edurev.in. Thank you so much.